So, this is a bizarre situation. Now, again, as we all know, the Trump administration put children in cages and kidnapped children from their parents, from their family, and put them in cages. A lot of them died. And when I say a lot, I mean more than one. I mean more than zero when I mean that, right? A lot of them died. And so, when these kids were put in cages, they were subjected to this pandemic. They were subjected to being exposed to the virus. They were subjected to inhuman conditions. They were brutalized, they were tortured, and they were traumatized for the rest of their lives. We still have several hundred kids whom we can't find the family members for because we had a fascist dictator want to be in this country decide he doesn't give a fuck about anyone other than himself. So, what was one of the chief things that people like Kamala Harris ran on when she was trying to do a failed run for the presidency where she got 0 votes? Well, she wanted to say, oh, the kids in cages. Oh, the kids in cages. So as we remember this viral moment, I want to remind everyone that this facility that Kamala Harris a year ago said was disgusting and inhumane, well, it's being reopened, folks. For profit, no less. It's being reopened. And so I want to focus on Kamala Harris's text messages at the time because she was so against kids in cages. She was so against it. Oh, no. So let's read. It's been sort of strange to see it become a meme because of how heartbreaking that actual moment was. I was standing on a ladder outside the Homestead Juvenile Immigration Detention Center outside Miami, looking over the fence. And I saw children lined up like prisoners. They had been separated from their families and put in this private detention facility. It was horrible. I was there with other members of the Senate and Congress, and we were actually denied entry to the facility. I sit on the Homeland Security Committee, and they wouldn't let me see this facility where children are being detained. There were parents outside the fence with me who were crying because they couldn't get to their children who were inside. It was awful. And I was just heartbroken to see it all. What this administration is doing is a human rights abuse. So, now what is the next administration that Kamala Harris is a part of doing? Let's read from the Miami New Times. When Democratic presidential debates were held in Miami back in June 2019, several candidates visited the Homestead Temporary Shelter for Unaccompanied Children, an unlicensed and for-profit detention center that held thousands of migrant children who came to the U.S. without their parents throughout the administrations of Presidents Barack Obama and Donald Trump. The shelter became the subject of national scorn because of reports of sexual abuse, negligent hiring practices, overcrowding, and human rights violations. Some children were described crying themselves to sleep at night, worrying that they would never be released. And now again, Kamala Harris, as part of the administration, reopened, baby, back in business. The Democratic candidates and campaign representatives who visited Homestead this summer, Kamala Harris, part of the Biden administration, Pete Buttigieg, also part of the Biden administration, Julian Castro, Kirsten Gillibrand, Marianne Williamson, Elizabeth Warren, John Hickenlooper, Bill de Blasio, and Tulsi Gabbard, plus Bernie Sanders' wife and advisor Jane, made some speeches, stood on ladders to get a look at the shelter behind a tall fence, and summoned the attention of national media outlets. Conspicuously absent was Joe Biden, who announced his candidacy for president in April 2019 and served as vice president when the Obama administration opened the shelter in 2016. Just a few months after the Democratic debates, the shelter was shuttered in October 2019. But this morning, the Miami Herald reported that the Biden administration plans to reopen the Homestead Center, which is now called the Biscayne Influx Care Facility. It's not a detention center. It's an influx care facility. Oh, they're not detention. No! They're caring for them by making sure they don't have adequate food and water and by sexually abusing them. What's wrong, Max? What are you doing? Max is ruining See, Max is even under the impression that this is a crime against humanity. Max is very upset right now, folks. Immigrant rights and social justice groups who previously ran a grassroots campaign to shut down the facility are already decrying the decision to reopen the shelter. Lise Marie Alvarado, director of the American Friends Service Committee in Florida, one of the organizations that advocated for the center to be shuttered, tells New Times the Biden administration has no business reopening the facility. This is not a place for children, Alvarado says. This is a place that's going to be impossible to maintain COVID safety regulations. We're already putting these children in danger. The detention center doesn't have safety measures for hurricanes. The operators hire random people who don't have experience or knowledge on how to work with children, especially children facing trauma from leaving their home countries. They're at risk of getting sexually assaulted, and many of them did. They have zero access to education. They just draw on little papers the whole day and play soccer. There is zero investment into them. So you can read the rest of the story here. But again, the Biden administration, one of the things they campaigned on was the kids in cages, the kids in cages, the kids in cages. And now they're in there. Where's Kamala Harris? So Kamala Harris campaigns on federally legalizing marijuana. That didn't happen. Kamala Harris campaigns on ending and shutting down the kids in cages. That didn't happen. What's next? It's disgusting. It's a crime against humanity. And anyone who even considers themselves a human being, who isn't on the forefront of condemning this disgusting behavior, in my opinion, I'm sorry. I don't consider you a person that is able to be in society. If you think it's okay to have children in cages being sexually abused, I'm sorry. You're not a member of a society I want to be in. Joe Biden needs to be held criminally liable for the crimes against humanity he's committed, just as Donald Trump should be, just as Barack Obama should be, just as George W. Bush should be. If you are personally responsible for criminal human rights abuses, you forfeit your right to participate in society, let alone lead society as president. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you should be going to jail because this shit is against all laws of how humans should treat each other. Right, Max? See, Max says yes. And yeah, so it's disgusting in my opinion. And fuck Joe Biden, fuck Kamala Harris. All my homies hate Joe Biden. All my homies hate Kamala Harris. Fuck them to hell.